Yesterday you mentioned feeling helplessness amongst the Muslims due to current oppression in the Muslim lands. You said that we should seek answers in our repentance and supplication to Allah rather than rebel. So how do you explain the hadith, whoever among you sees an evil, remove with your hand, tongue, and heart? Well, that's the point. That hadith is the very point, is that it doesn't say, it says, if you're able. فَإِنَ اسْتَطَعَ أَنْ يُغَيِّرُهُ بِيَدِهِ. Right? If he's able to change it with his hand, let him change it with his hand. If he's able to change it, and if he can't do that, then change it with his tongue. If he can't do that, change it with his heart. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. That's the weakest of iman, but it's still good because الْمُؤْمِنُ الْقَوِيُّ خَيْرٌ وَأَحَبُّ إِلَى اللَّهِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِ الضَّعِيفِ وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٌ. In both are good. The weak believer and the helpless believer and the strong believer, the strong one is more beloved because he's more beneficial. Right? أَحَبُّكُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَنْفَعُكُمْ لِعِيَالِي. The most beloved to you with God are the most beneficial. So a mu'min al-qawi is more beneficial than a mu'min al-da'if. وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٌ. So that's the point. If you're able to change it with your hand, by all means change it with your hand. If you're able to change it with your tongue. The hand, they say, our ulama say, the hand is for the sulta. The tongue is for the alim. And the heart is for the ammi, for somebody who's not learned, but he knows it's wrong. So the Prophet is giving, there's a maqam for each one. So if you don't have authority, you can't go and just, get rid of alcohol. If a Muslim country permits alcohol, and alcohol has been around for centuries. Don't think it's something of late. I mean, the Abbasid period, they had hawanit in Baghdad, and this is not new. These aren't new things. So this kind of Puritanism that has infected our community it's a bad sign. I mean, even if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, there was alcohol in Medina. There were people drinking at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. We know that for a fact. They got drunk. And there's hadith in al-Bukhari. So, and the Prophet was very gentle with them because those type of sins are far less. I mean, that's a kabira, and I'm not belittling it in any way. But if you want the big sins, the economic sins those are the really big ones. Riba, I mean, and Muslims now, would never touch alcohol, but riba, it's not a big deal. So, we have to do what we're able to do. But we need to strengthen ourselves. And that begins with knowledge. There's a bab in al-Bukhari, which is bab al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge before speaking and acting. You have to learn before you can speak and act. And this is where we have too many activists that haven't studied. And we have students also that aren't active. That's true. But I'll tell you something about our religion, and it's very important to keep this in note. Uzla is permitted in our religion. It is absolutely permitted to disengage from the world. It's better not to, because mu'min al-qawi is better than the mu'min al-da'if, but it is permitted. And women they have no taklifa in activism, none. If they want to be active, that's fine, but they don't have any taklifa. Their taklifa is in their home, with their families, with their children. That doesn't mean there weren't sahabiyat that were very active. They were, and there are active women. But women shouldn't have to feel, a lot of women, it's not their nature. They shouldn't have to feel like, oh, I'm not doing anything. If you're raising your children well, with prophetic values, if you're cooking food with niyyah and with dhikr and nourishing your family, those are very important things to be doing. Those women that want to do other things, then, if they have the circumstances and the wherewithal to do that, then that's fine. But it is permitted for people to disengage. And there are many books on this. There are many hadiths that indicate. The Prophet said the best wealth of a person towards the end of time is just to go out up into the mountains with some goats. So nobody can say that they can't do that. And so this whole idea that everybody has to be out there doing something, and why aren't you doing something? Okay, tell me what to do. What do you want me to do? You want me to go blow up myself? Is this some kind of, enlightened way to deal with our circumstances? Is this really going to benefit us? Is this going to further the cause of the ummah? What do you want us to do? Seriously, tell me. What do you want? Do we go to Syria and fight? For what? What's going to happen when this is over? I don't know. Look at Afghanistan. Look at all those people that fought 40 years ago against the Russians. Now look, what were they fighting for? God knows what. The Prophet ﷺ told Hudayfa, اعتزل الفرق كلها. He said, if you don't see an imam and a jama'ah, he said, avoid all the sects. He just said, avoid. It's in Sahih Bukhari. He said, اعتزل. That's an amr from the Prophet ﷺ. Go into uzla. Just avoid all the sectarianism. There's so much confusion now in the Muslim world. Show me the Rayatul Islam. What, these people in Iraq, we go take bay'ah with somebody who's cutting off the heads of people because they're Shia. When in the history of Islam have our imams cut off people's heads because they were Shia? You show me. When? Show me where in our books it says to kill Shia. They're Muslims. They say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I was trained in Sunni tradition and that's what I believe. But they're Muslims. I don't believe they're not Muslim. They're Muslims. Lakum madhabukum wali madhabi. They have their way. They were born into it. They were indoctrinated into something. They have an alternate version of events. And in their world, it all makes sense. And if you study that early period, it's very confusing. Bani Umayyah did horrible things to Ahl al-Bayt. You study that. People get confused studying that early period. But what is that? To cut people's heads off because they're Shia? A'udhu billah. There's many devout, pious people in Iran. Seriously, they weep tears. They're human beings. And to demonize people is just evil. Even Jews. The whole demonization of Jews is wrong. It's not our tradition. It's not our tradition. There's people in Israel that are totally opposed to this. There's Hasidim that don't even believe in the Zionist state. They're against it. There were Jews living there before the partition. 5%, 6% of Palestine was owned by Jews before the Palestine. They owned 6% of the land. Muslims never forbade Jews from making migration to the Muslim world. And there's periods where they were treated reasonably well, and then there were other periods where they weren't. In one of the North African states, the kids used to say to Jews, Huz arba. If they saw a Jew, they would say, Huz arba, shake four. And the Jew would have to do this little dance for them. It's humiliation. It's not funny. It's humiliation. It's not our religion. Prophet didn't treat people like that. So Muslims we need to think deeply about these things, about our state. We have so much, we call the Jews racist, and there's racists amongst them. There's some rabid racists in those settlers, but there's some rabid racists amongst our community as well. You watch some of those khutbahs. If I was a Jew watching a khutbah from some of these guys that they show on memory, we're gonna nadbahuhum dhabhan, narbihim fil bahar, naqturukum qatra, we're gonna kill every last one of you. And some Jew, these guys their ancestors were in the Holocaust, their grandfather, grandmother. So that's a real thing to them. Right? So we're against the Israeli aggression. I'm against it. We're all against it. But there's a lot of Jews that are against it as well. So don't make these blanket statements. All Jews are evil. Quran doesn't do that. Minhum al-mu'minun. Amongst them are believers. وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ الْفَاسِقُونَ. That's basically true about us as well. Let's be honest with ourselves. So this is why, we need a complete transformation in our understanding, in our community. We have to.